The bigger challenge for me around measurability is that we cannot connect customer data with our marketing data.
You can't connect customer data with
your marketing data. So
just amplify that for us.
If we're talking and you're going through a classic funnel and we're going from, whatever, it's a display ad and you click it and it goes through, we typically get to leads at best, right? Where we're going, here's a lead, but we can't take it right through. In a bank, we typically hand it over to a call center who then goes to close that. But the actual core banking data, retail data, is probably disconnected and more often not. Same with telcos, the list goes on. Automotive is the same. Every category we get to, there's this divide between the actual data of the consumer, what's their ARPU, what they're buying, what they're not buying, versus what we're doing in marketing. And we cannot follow that straight through. So our marketing attribution is probably ending up with clicks and likes and leads versus actual purchase data. And that's the big fundamental flaw in the entire model, even with attribution, if you go and look at all of those things. So the way to fix it is, I think as security protocols improve, as we start moving to the cloud and people get more comfortable to be able to use ways to connect that data, then the measurability goes right through to purchase. And I think that's the gap that we have at the moment. People talk about vanity metrics and all of these things. So we need the blend. You have to do brand marketing. I mean, there's a classic cartoon about you seeing all the executions of brand, and then literally at the point of purchase, they consider that to be the only thing that influenced. So from that click to buy, and they go like, look, let's put 100% behind that because that click made me purchase, and it's obviously not true. So that kind of journey needs to be holistic, but we also need to add customer data to it.
Is that disconnect bad data or bad data management?
It's the absence of the API between data sets. So if you think about, when you see an ad on Facebook and it's trying to sell you a pair of sneakers at Total Sports, and they retarget you because you stopped there for 3.5 seconds, the next day and you see it again, then you decide on Saturday you're going to go to Total Sports to buy it. At Total Sports, you then swipe your Discovery card and you get your Vitality thing and you pick up your sneakers and you leave. The person who showed you the ad in the first place can't tell that you bought the sneakers at the end on Saturday. And so those two conversations between the data provider and the marketing solution provider are not connected.
And how do you close the gap? And if you close the gap, how is it going to make things better?
I think it might be two things. So either there's going to be an upsurge of companies or data brokers in the middle that allow you to be able to plug in, and there'll be the sovereign data point that allows for the maintenance of the governance on the data to make sure it's compliant, etc. Or in some cases, organizations like Walmart and the bigger ones have actually created divisions within their organization that are reaching out to marketers to create a direct bridge.
Data brokers.
Correct. So you're either going to have it as a service, or you're going to have it actually driven by the buyers or the brands.
And we're behind the curve in this country on that.
We definitely
are. There efforts being made to try and...
We definitely are.
Close that gap? Is it happening, or are we not there yet?
I don't think it's happening. I think the guys that are doing it better are probably the online e-com retailers. They've probably got a better grasp and a better handle of being able to close the loop. But in general, I would say we are definitely behind the curve.
Colin, what do you think? And it's also getting two very different disciplines talking to each other in often very different languages.
So I'm going to use stats and I hope I don't make anything up.
We'll never know.
The stat that I actually saw is at the moment, and it's a global stat, we use about 14 points of data on an individual or on the buyer. There's expectations that by 2025 we'll be up to 45.
So 14 points of data per what? Or,
per buyer, per individual that we're considering.
Okay.
And by 2025, the expectation is we'll be up to 45. And I think that's because of bringing together the data through data broker, through large data, be it whatever you want to call it. But I think one of the keys to this is AI. And we're starting to see AI creep into this field in such a big way. Now, we've got to be careful with AI. And we talk about ethical AI. We talk about AI making sense for us. That it's not just AI for AI's sake, to be honest with you. So we are starting to see very similar.
How is AI helping?
It's starting to boil up a lot of relationships between those data points, those 14 or 45 data points, and giving us something that we may not have known or have seen, right? that a human typically won't be able to see or won't be able to process.
Can you give us
because
an example of how that might be happening?
there's just too many data points, right? And you know, I take a look at 14 data points, mostly okay, but over millions or hundreds of thousands of customers, we just don't have the ability to do that. So the examples that we typically see, and the examples that I'll use again is in the B2B space, where we're starting to see how people are interacting online, as an example, downloading a trial for technology, potentially going to have a look at a website, attending an event, et cetera, and bringing it all together to say, we're now seeing that person X is interested in Y, and bubbling that up to the seller to say, yes, something to potentially go after. We're starting to see that in quite a big way. So, agreed, I don't think we're there yet, but we are starting to see this come together in quite a big way.
I think maybe just to add to that, so if you think about FMCG as a classic example, smarter marketers in FMCG will start to realize, if they're spending the right time in conversations with IT, etc., is that they could enhance their point of view on consumers if they integrated various different data points. So if you sat down and you thought about your typical brand that you'd be selling to the average South African, and all this time you've been looking at Nielsen data to inform your decisions, and you'd be looking at work case studies, etc., the smart marketer would be thinking, how do I integrate TransUnion data to augment this data to be able to provide a better solution? And so if you bring in TransUnion data, that typically increases your data points around that consumer, and over time you enrich your understanding typically of the consumer, therefore ultimately, hopefully, leading to a better outcome, even from a marketing and from an insight perspective. So as you have, in inverted commas, more TransUnions or more data sources, you should be able to be smarter about how you start to understand your consumers.